Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Joy Journeying with Jen. I'm Jen. And this month, we are celebrating Fierce Awakenings, the second anniversary of publishing way back in September on the solstice in 2023. 12 women came together and we announced boldly that we were walking life's spiral path with courage and confidence. And this month, I've been celebrating each of these co authors. 2 years later, this book still holds so much wisdom. And now, as I round a new edge in my own spiral path, there are different pieces of the story of each of these co-authors' stories that come back to me in a new way that has a new insight and a new way of feeling into the situation I'm in now and the situation I'm working myself through. I also want to just mention that I'm doing this in conjunction with my co-author, Sarah Hoskin, and she's over at the Sacred Beyond doing a series called The Wisdom of the Well, and she is re-interviewing some of our co-authors and bringing their stories into the mix. And at the bottom of each of my interviews, you'll see not only a link back to Sarah's stories, but to each co-author's original interview that I did with them back in 2023 as we were coming onto the publishing date. And you'll hear a few of their own way of telling their stories with excerpts in the interviews. And what I'm doing here is I'm reflecting sequentially on each part of the book and what it has meant to me as I keep rounding my own edges. So today we're talking about Ellison James and her chapter, which is Crone Learning to Dance with Death. Ellison is one of our Crone ladies, wise ladies in the room. She's along with Susan Smith. She's one of our oldest co-authors, and like the big sister who has figured things out for those of us going through midlife and menopause. She's always been one of the women I look towards when I model my wise lady self and how I could be a crone dancing later in my own life. This and reinvigorating this idea that crones are not the old lady hags that are withering away on the sidelines. No, we are going to be the women of the next generation who greet life in a different way. And Susan and Ellison are my role models for that. And Ellison's way of being in the world and elevating her joy and creativity as a superpower really resonates deeply with me. So just, a quick word about Ellison. She's a poet, an artist, a ceremonialist, and a wild idea woman. And that's who she is now. And she's also doing this amazing work about crone sovereignty and also story smashing, where she's like using creative prompts um, and visualizing like visual boards and visual ways of doing this to smash through stories and elevate the the narratives that we keep telling ourselves. But in a past version of herself, decades ago, she was a private hospice and Alzheimer's caregiver, and she was helping people and families through the last stages of their life and through some of the most difficult moments of their life, right? If any of you have know people who have Alzheimer's, you know that journey is very difficult. And to have somebody like Ellison sitting beside you in in these moments, I I can only imagine how so many families have benefited from her presence and her love and her care. And in her learning about this, like she is a death doula and she has seen death very close and has been the caregiver and the provider of all the love that needs to come in to hold that transition. That and if you've seen, I have not witnessed what she has witnessed in any way. I have only watched one person die, and it was my mother. And I know the tender moment of laying my head on her heart and feeling the erratic heartbeat and hearing that it's fading away. And for me, that is one of my most powerful experiences. And mirroring with Ellison, like how she has held that space, man. And it's curious because I know Ellison is this vibrant woman and brilliant and shining this brilliant light. And knowing that she also has this capacity, that's what makes her like one of my super heroines in my life. And she writes about this, and she writes about how she was navigating a lot of this in life as well, right? And her Midwestern parents also sold her on their version of the American dream, and that rigid plan that promised if she went to school and got good grades and got a good job, that she would get into a good college and she would have a good job and make a lot of money and marry the Prince Charming and have this beautiful family and beautiful house and all those things that Susan was mentioning in her story. Ellison had a similar upbringing with that. We're all brought up this way to think that if we just work hard enough and do the path the way other people tell us to do the path, that we are going to have this very successful and fulfilling, rich life. And it doesn't always work out that way. So what I'm going to read from Crone, Learning to Dance with Death, is Ellison's way of feeling through this new version of the American dream that she created for herself, and how this has provided her with a new perspective. Okay, so in Ellison's words, all of these years of claiming death as my superpower have proved to be a fertile ground where I could grow into myself and let go of the constant searching and grabbing for validation from others. When I stopped looking outside of myself to feel like I was good enough and started finding the answers inside myself, life got a lot sweeter. Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of years I was sucked into the harmful claims put out by corporations that if I just brought their designer shoes, clothes, cars, and everything else they were selling, that I would be happy. Or the brainwashing that if I was just thin enough or blonde enough or with long legs and big breasts, then I would be good enough. Now I laugh at how ridiculous it looks to think the path to enough was through more, to buy more, work more, diet more. Just try harder. It turns out that the only thing that guarantees is burnout, which stress levels through the roof and energy levels down in the basement. Thank goodness that was just a temporary detour. So I'm going to skip down a little bit because where she talks a little bit about the death doula gifts that she received. My time as a death doula provided me with numerous opportunities to learn to dance with death. I will always be grateful for the moments when I could reassure a client in their last hours by telling them that they were surrounded by loved ones who would miss them enormously, but that it would be all right. Then offer permission to go ahead and go wherever they wanted to. I'm also thankful for the moments of grace, like the time I was inspired to grab bedside lip balm, spread it on my client's dry lips, and tell her that she needed to have nice, moist lips to smooch her husband when he greeted her in heaven. A sly little smile crossed her now moist lips. And where she talks about this, like death Death's course comes with lessons for all of us. I learned one of them from a client's grandson. While we were all having dinner, a client passed. Her grandson was so devastated that I suggested that we take his dog for a walk. Once outside, he sobbed, grabbed my hand, and saying that I had been an island of peace for him at the hardest time of his life. That testimonial made all those years worthwhile and prepared me to start celebrating the crone I have become. Crone is really learning to dance with life and death. Through all the experiences of life, its greatest joys and its greatest sorrows, we learn to build our capacity to hold the intensity of our feelings. In this, we become a giant container to hold incredible space for others, especially those we love. This is the root of our wisdom, and it's hard earned. And for me, this is like that moment in our lives when we feel like, yeah, once again, we have truly arrived. Once again, we are standing in our highest vibration, on the highest peak of who we are. And Ellison's words of this like image of the crone and the wisdom that's hard earned, this wisdom that we have carried through our entire book so far. There's still one more chapter. It's my chapter is coming up at the end. But this whole movement of how life moves us up and down, how we descend, we slip, we fall, we descend, we have a dark moment of the soul, we have a dark hour that we need to confront who we are and deal with our emotions in really enormous and big ways so that we can rise up and crest again. And when I read Ellison's story then and now, I feel this exuberance. I feel this, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out there and live my best life. Not only because I want to, because I might have the opportunity to do that, but because when I do that, others around me feel that. And yeah, death is coming for me too. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know how soon, or I don't know how far away it is, but yeah, I'm going to take the steps I need to do to be in my creative superpower. I am going to be my own unicorn, and I'm going to trust that that is the way that I'm meant to be. I don't know where it's going to go, but Ellison gives me the inspiration to keep going for it and to know that this strange liminal space that I'm in between who I was and who I'm becoming is leading me into the crone that I am going to be. And she's going to be wearing the crown with joy and hard-earned wisdom and a, the way you look at life from all the experiences you've had and how that moves you closer and closer to this really true version of you. That's where I'll leave you for now. And the question that I'll put in the space to have you ponder between now and our next video is, how are you greeting the wisdom of your hard-earned life? Yeah, that's how it came out. That's how I'll ask it. How are you tapping into this wisdom that you already carry? And how is it wanting to be expressed now? All right, until the next time, I'll see you later. Take good care and have a joyful day.